Well, this is it, friends. We are at the end of 2024. What a year for fragrances. I'm going to give you in this video my top 12 picks for the best releases of the year. Now, I did not buy every new fragrance that came out, not even close. What I did is I bought those that I was very interested in, either because they were from a brand or a line that I absolutely loved. But many times I'll see a fragrance come out, I'll sample it either in a store or get a carded sample, and I'll think it's good, but I'd rather wait a year and pick it up at half price at a discounter. But in the instance of these, they were worth it to me to go ahead and pick them up now because they are just that good. I will say there's a couple of these that came out at the end of 2023 and I didn't pick them up until this year, either because they weren't really available or for whatever reason. I just didn't pick them up until this year. And this video is evenly split between 6 clone fragrances and 6 designer fragrances. There's even one niche that sort of snuck in here. But these are the cream of the crop and some of my highest recommendations for brand new fragrances if you want to pick things up that have just come out. So we're going to begin with designer and then we'll move over into the clones. And I am telling you, what a year for fragrances. We'll start with the 2 that I was most interested in when I saw that they were coming out because they're from 2 of my favorite lines. The first one that I will mention is from the Spice Bomb line. Probably my favorite fragrance line if I were to just narrow it down to one. I have all of the ones that are currently in production and I absolutely love the line. This year's release was Spice Bomb Dark Leather. I had to grab this whenever I saw that it came out. They don't release bad fragrances, at least according to my taste. They release fire, amazing, incredible fragrances, and this one is no different. I do want to read off to you some of the notes, but I will tell you this fragrance does have a good portion of the original Spice Bomb in it, and it even has an air of Spice Bomb Extreme in it. And then it has, of course, its unique nuance, which is the leather note that is a little more prominent. The original Spice Bomb had leather, some of the others have had leather, but this one features leather. So again, some of the notes that you're going to find in Spice Bomb Dark Leather. Black pepper and nutmeg. Right there, you've got a strong similarity to the original. There's other spices as well that they don't list. In the mid, you've got cinnamon, you've got frankincense, and then in the base, you've got black leather and, of course, tobacco. There were a couple Spice Bomb fragrances that either didn't have tobacco in them or at least didn't feature it prominently. They really departed from the line, whereas this one, Spice Bomb Dark Leather, is sort of encapsulating what is so loved about this fragrance line. Now, it doesn't have a vanilla note like Spice Bomb Extreme, but it does have a very similar sweetness to Spice Bomb Extreme. It doesn't have necessarily all of the same notes listed as the original Spice Bomb. Like, for instance, I don't see a woody note listed, but there is definitely some of the woodiness from the original Spice Bomb. And so what I would say is if you've already got the original, you've already got Spice Bomb Extreme, there is going to definitely be some redundance in this one. But if you just want to get one that captures the heart of what this fragrance line is about, and if you like leather, I wish the leather were a touch more prominent because it's not the dominant note. The spice and sweetness are the dominant notes, with leather just kind of undergirding the entire fragrance. So I think this would be a great recommendation for one Spice Bomb if you were just going to get one from the line. This stuff is incredible. It smells amazing. It's got that addictive quality, mass-pleasing stuff. Again, Spice Bomb Dark Leather. Took too long with that one, so let's move on a little quicker to the others. The other release from this year that I knew I had to get as soon as it dropped, and I did, I'm talking about this one right here, Mugler's Amen line. This is Phantasm, the newest release. I really only wanted one thing from this fragrance. I wanted the original Amen, which is one of my all-time favorites that I have just worn, I don't even know how many times through the years, that I have loved. I've gotten tons of compliments from that fragrance. And I really wanted from Phantasm a modernized take on that incredible DNA. And that's exactly what they gave us. I think the original Amen came out in the late 90s, 96, 97, something like that. I think it's still very relevant and very much, it's very modern smelling. It's not dated like most fragrances from that time are. But what they ended up giving us with Phantasm is probably 60 to 70% of the original DNA with that dark, aromatic patchouli coffee fragrance that really the entire line is based off of. But they rolled back some of the intensity of the aromatics and even some of the intensity of that darkness from the coffee and patchouli. And they emphasized in this one the spiciness and the sweetness from chocolate. There's a chocolatey patchouli in a lot of the Amen fragrances, but this one there's a dedicated chocolate note. There's a good bit of warm spiciness. And so this one really is sort of like a gourmand, very much modern take on the Amen line. This one is also a well complemented fragrance, just as, of course, the original was. Highly, highly recommend it. And if you've never purchased from Mugler's website, you can get a crazy deal directly from Mugler now in the US. I think I got that fragrance. It's the 1.7 ounce with shipping for like $60 or something. So maybe even less than 60. So really good deal on that one for a new fragrance. All right, the next one. This one actually did come out in 2023, but it was not available in the US until pretty much the very end of 2023. It might have been like December, and I grabbed it as soon as I could, paid full price, you know, but man, it's totally worth it. This is technically a niche fragrance, but one that is now available at designer prices. I'm talking about Mancera's Red Tobacco Intense. Now, this is one of those, just like the last two I showed you, as soon as it came out, I knew I had to grab it as soon as I could get a hold of it because I love the original Mancera Red Tobacco. I love tobacco fragrances. As you'll see in this list, I like dark, spicy, sweet, warm fragrances. There's really too many in this list, actually, but it's just what I love. Now, I'll tell you about this one. It's got a lot of similarities to the original Red Tobacco, probably like 70-ish% similarities. But what they did do in this one is the leather note is quite prominent. They could have called this Red Tobacco Leather or something with leather in the title, and that would have been very accurate. This one also, in the opening, they rolled back a little bit of the oudiness and a little bit of the ashiness from the tobacco. This is definitely a less oudy, less ashy take on the Red Tobacco DNA. And what you end up getting is a more smooth and a more refined take on the Red Tobacco DNA. Now, this fragrance is still insanely powerful. It's still very much a niche DNA, and it's something that's not for everybody. You have to like strong fragrances, tobacco fragrances. You have to like spicy fragrances, loud fragrances. And this is a powerful, loud, spicy, sweet tobacco fragrance with a beautiful, dominant leather note. This stuff is fire. You can get it for around $100 now, and I think it's worth every penny. Intense Red Tobacco. All right, next up, this one may also have come out in 2023. I think it did come out in 2023, but I ended up not picking it up until this year. But it was another one. As soon as I saw that it came out, I said, I will definitely pick that up soon. I'm talking about this one right here, Le Male Elixir. I buy most of the Le Male or Le Beau fragrances, at least for the last couple years I have. I love those lines, especially the Le Male line. When the original Le Male came out, there was 5 years probably where it was what I wore 5 out of 7 days. I've gone through, I don't know how many full big bottles of the original Le Male. And as they've released flankers through the years, there has been some fire fragrances in the Le Mans line. I knew that this one featured a tobacco note, and I said, I'm sold, sign me up, where do I buy? And so this one, basically, you have some similarities to Le Mans Les Parfums. You've got that warm, rich spiciness, that vanilla. This one you have a lavender mint in the opening mixing with that vanilla that does tie it back to the original Le Mans. But then you've got this warmth from tobacco and from honey. You've got some cardamom spiciness. So you've got that aromatic fresh spiciness, and you've got some rich, warm spiciness as well, with sweetness, with honey and tobacco. It is just an amazing fragrance. And even though it shares notes with a couple of the fragrances I've already shown you, it doesn't smell like any of the fragrances I've just shown you. This stuff is awesome. It's gotten a lot of hype and a lot of love, and it is well deserved as far as I'm concerned. Again, Le Mans Elixir. All right, now this next one, this one was a big surprise to me. This one I did not grab because I saw it and I thought, man, I've got to get a hold of that. You know, this is a line that I absolutely love. I do actually like the line, even though you'll see why that's not a popular thing to say. I mostly got it because my sons love the original in this line, and they really wanted me to grab this one, and it turned out it actually smelled really good, very good, and so I went ahead and picked it up. I'm talking about this little matte black robot bottle from Paco Rabanne, Phantom Parfum. This fragrance was surprisingly good. This fragrance smells legitimately very, very good, and not a simple, 18-year-old's fragrance. The original Phantom, I actually like it. I think it smells great. My two sons absolutely love it. But this one's got a little bit more maturity, a little bit more depth, a little bit more richness. I want to let you know a couple of the notes from Phantom Les Parfums. In the top, you've got cardamom, and I do want to mention there is a spicy quality about this fragrance that is a standout. Cardamom is a warm, sweet, kind of hot spiciness. You've got bergamot, rhubarb, and lemon. And something about the rhubarb and lemon. Now, rhubarb is one of those love it or hate it notes. I will tell you, in this one, the rhubarb is it's not too much. This is not like Lacoste L'Homme Intense or even John Barbados Vintage that have, a very powerful dominant rhubarb note. Something about the rhubarb and lemon mixing together gives it kind of like a warm, sweet fruitiness. Almost like a, pear, apple, something like that. So the rhubarb is there for sure, but it's done in a very tasteful and I would say palatable, mass-pleasing way. Then next, you've got in the mid, lavender, patchouli, cedarwood, and geranium. And something about the cedar and the patchouli, there's a good bit of heft to this one. There's a woodiness. There's almost like not an incense, but almost like a dark, almost smokiness in this one that again is very impressive and very surprising. And then in the base, you've got vanilla, Tolu balsam, and Haitian vetiver. And the vanilla does give it a good dose of sweetness, just like the original. I would say definitely a sweet fragrance, and even though there is some complexity and some maturity to this one, it's still something that an 18-year-old could wear, but I really think this one pretty much anyone could wear. Very impressive stuff right here from Paco Rabanne. All right, and finally, now these have not been in order so far, but this one is proving to be my favorite designer release of the year. So this is number 6 of the designer half of the list. And this stuff has blown me away. All the hype you've heard is real, and it is earned, and it is deserved. It is so impressive, more than I expected, and I had very high expectations. I'm talking about Boss Bottled Absolu. This fragrance is phenomenal. I loved Boss Bottled Elixir. I picked that one up last year. I think it came out last year, and it was very impressive. Some similarities, or at least People were relating it to Sauvage Elixir, and I definitely get that. This one, on the other hand, took that DNA and handcrafted it perfectly for me. And so let me tell you some of the notes that you're going to find in this one. In the top, you've got leather and incense. In the mid, you've got patchouli and myrrh. And so already, leather, incense, patchouli, and myrrh. If I hear those notes and I know that this fragrance also has some sweetness, then I know immediately I'm probably going to love this fragrance. And then in the base, you've got cedarwood and Davana. Now, there are definitely some notes in this one that they are not listing for you. There is a good bit of sweetness, and I don't know if that's coming from benzoin, or I don't think it's vanilla, if it's, you know, tonka bean, or I don't know what it is, coumarin, but there's some sort of warm, almost vanillic sweetness mixing with that leather, incense, patchouli, myrrh. I really like myrrh in fragrances. I really like frankincense in fragrances. It's almost Christmas, how appropriate, but I love that sort of resinous, rich, textured kind of a feel. And with the leather, the patchouli, the cedarwood, this fragrance has a lot of complexity. It also has a lot of sweetness, and the incense throughout the day, I'm wearing it today, throughout the day, the incense mixing with that cedar and that patchouli, that sweetness just catches my attention. I'll be like, man, what is that? What am I wearing? It's one of those fragrances that throughout the day, it keeps catching my attention. I keep going, I freaking love this stuff. So this is my highest recommendation as far as releases from this year go. But I would say that about Amen Phantasm. I would say that about Spice Bomb Dark Leather. You know, there's just been some fantastic releases this year. So again, Boss Bottled Absolute. This stuff is super impressive. All right, this video is going to be a long one. It's just the way that it is. I'm okay with it. I usually try to keep my videos pretty short. But I'm going to move on in now to the clone fragrances. And I will tell you, this year, I have picked up well over 100 clones this year. It may be bumping up against 200. I don't know. I haven't kept count, but it's been out of control. I've had a bunch sent to me, and I have bought way more than ever before. And that's all thanks to you guys. You know, you guys watch this, I get ad revenue, and then I take the money and I put it back into the channel. So thank you for watching. There's been some fire releases this year in the realm of clones, and these are, I thought long and hard about this, and this is the right list. There's some others I could have put in here for sure, but at the very least I can say every one of these is awesome. They are excellent. So let's go ahead and dive in. First one I want to mention, this one's surprising. It got some hate because it was so expensive, but it is so dang good. I'm talking about Armaf Club de Nuit Pre-Show 1. This is a twist on Creed Absolute Aventus, and it's actually quite similar to Absolute Aventus, except for there is a caramel pear sweetness in this fragrance layered on top of probably 80% of the Absolute Aventus DNA. And I like Absolute Aventus. I like Aventus. I like Aventus Cologne. I think that line obviously is well loved for good reason. But you add in some gourmand sweetness with caramel and pear, and again, I mean, I'm sold. I am absolutely won over. And this fragrance you can now get around $50. It is only a 2-ounce bottle. The presentation on this was just over the top. And it was a good thing. I think that they did something right in the whole package deal. I paid $67 for this, and I was not disappointed a bit. Now that you can get it for $50, it's one of the best fragrance pickups that I could recommend to you. It lasts 10 hours. It's super powerful. It projects like a beast. It's got incredible sillage. It's an extrait de parfum concentration, I believe, and it is worth every penny. This stuff is awesome. If you don't have it yet, you may want to seriously consider picking it up. The hype is real and deserved on that one. All right. These are not in order. I don't know how to put these in order because I love every single one of them. But another one that you'll be very familiar with that got a lot of hype. It did come out in 2023, I think, but you couldn't get it anywhere. Neeb from Aromatics started talking about it in 2023, but you couldn't get it in the US until maybe 6 months ago. I'm talking about this one right here, Liquid Brune. This is, of course, a Parfums de Marly Altaire dupe, and it's gorgeous. You know, orange blossom, vanilla, cinnamon, cardamom, and praline, which I think is just the star of the show in Altaire. And so it is a warm, rich vanilla fragrance. You are going to notice in this entire video, there's not really any freshies. There's some that kind of border on freshies, like Armaf Préchaud, but this is just what I love, and I'm telling you my favorites from the year. And this is definitely one of them. This is a well-complemented fragrance DNA. It is pretty close to Altaire. There are some differences, but it's long-lasting. It's very high quality. It is very much mass-pleasing. And so, again, this is an alternative to Altaire, and you can usually get it now for less than $50, and it is a fantastic pickup. Really great stuff, Liquid Brune. The next one, this is one from Zoha Aroma, and I could have put several from Zoha Aroma in here. I've got some other videos coming out in the next week or so that are going to be about some of my favorites from the year, but I think this is the one. If I were to only pick one, this fragrance really took me by surprise. It is amazing. This is Passion for Oud by Zoha Aroma, and it is their take on Mason Crivelli's Oud Maracuja or Maracuja, and it is fantastic. This is an oud fragrance that is very much a niche profile, but I have been very surprised at how many people who like fragrances but are not frag heads watching YouTube videos, how many people really like the way this smells. The passion fruit is magical. It's this sweet, rich passion fruit, and something about the way that it mixes with oud and leather and saffron, it gives this sort of dark, inky kind of a feel, but with a lot of sweetness and with some brightness from that passion fruit. And I think there's also in the top, you've got rose. So rose and passion fruit. You know, the smell of sort of that, you know, red rose and fruit mixing with these darker oudy notes. It's hard to describe. There is another dupe of this same fragrance that's gotten a lot of love from French Avenue in the same kind of bottle as Liquid Brune that I've also heard is good, but I haven't tried it. But this is, I got a lot of oud fragrances this year, and this is my favorite oud pickup without question. Passion for Oud. This stuff is phenomenal. This one it was one of the insanely impressive Lattafas I picked up this year. Lattafa, this is their banner year. They've done better this year than ever before, and I've been buying Lattafa fragrances for quite a while, since they started to really come west and get prominent. This one right here is from Lattafa Pride. This is Artisan Ethnique. It is a Sugar Addict dupe, which I've never tried the original, and this fragrance has impressed me to no end. It is a warm, sweet, gourmand fragrance with a massive, massive caveat. Off the atomizer, you get mostly that gourmand sweetness, like a baked goods, vanilla, caramel, sort of warm, toffee kind of a sweetness. But there is a surprising, aromatic, spicy, resinous weight and power to this fragrance. There is this, oak moss and amber woods, and there's some resins. I can't remember which one at the moment, but there is this sort of weighty, complex, very, very textured, aromatic, fresh spicy, and beautiful, warm spicy, maybe cinnamon kind of a feel as well. It's incredible. This is not, you know, your wife's gourmand fragrance. It is unisex, but I don't even think unisex leaning feminine. I think it's right down the middle. It is so very good. It is a sweet fragrance, but not overly sweet. It's in the family of similar fragrance to, although it doesn't smell like, Lattafa's Badi Al Oud Honor and Glory, but it's that kind of a fragrance. And if you like that one, you'll probably love this one. I think it's definitely higher quality and even better done. So anyway, check this stuff out. It is awesome. This next one, I don't know if I have heard anybody else talk about this one at all, and maybe everybody's talking about it and I've missed it, but this one blew my socks off. It's one of the few single fragrance clone videos that I did. I only do a video on a clone whenever I want to highlight it and say, you really need to check this out. This is something unique, it's something special, and this is Fragrance World's Genuine Man Only Au Bois. And this is Fragrance World's dupe of Givenchy Gentleman Boisé, which was sort of a woody take on the Gentleman DNA. And the original Boisé, the one from Givenchy, I do like the fragrance, but I never bought it. I have several others from the line. I like the line, and I've been dabbling in the line for several years now. But I didn't buy Boisé because the woodiness was a bit much and it didn't have quite enough sweetness for me. So what they did with this one is they took that DNA, and I think what they did, whether intentional or not, it seems like they took Givenchy Gentleman EDT, which is a beautiful fragrance that doesn't get enough love, and they smashed it together with Boisé. Because there is a vanilla pear iris in this fragrance, in the opening, mid, really throughout the fragrance. This sweet vanilla pear iris that I fell in love with in the original years ago in the EDT, that is prominent in this one, but it also has that rich, textured, warm woodiness from Boisé. They didn't lose that. It's just that in this fragrance, that woodiness doesn't take over the fragrance. It's not anywhere near as dry as the original Boisé was. It keeps the sweetness, it highlights that pear iris, vanilla sweetness, and that woodiness just makes the fragrance. This stuff is awesome. It reminds me a little bit, doesn't smell like it, but it's in the same category as Guerlain L'Homme Ideal Extreme. That sort of, you know, woody sweetness, the way that those work together, something real similar here. You should check it out. It's inexpensive and it is very impressive. And number 6, I don't even know how long this video is, but longer than I intended. This is probably similar to Boss Bottled Absolute. I would say like this is the one from the year. I would say if I think if I just had to pick one clone to say this is the one that blew me away the most this year, I'm probably going to have to go with this one right here, Lattafa The Kingdom. I did another standalone video on this one, as I have most of the fragrances in this video, and this Lattafa is a dupe of this fragrance right here. I already love the DNA, but they nailed it. They killed it. This fragrance, it performs monstrously. It's like a 10 to 12 hour performer. It's got massive projection, maybe even more so than the original. I will tell you the original, the tobacco is a little more rich and a little more distinct. I would say higher quality in the JPG, but just the fragrance profile, the vanilla, mint, lavender, they nailed it. And this one probably has a little more sweetness in the opening and the mid from that vanilla. That warm tobacco honey, they nailed it. This fragrance is amazing. It's inexpensive, probably $35, maybe even less. I'm telling you, man, Lattafa has been blowing it up. And this right here is just an excellent example of that. It's not Lattafa Pride, so it doesn't have that extra price tag on. It's just standard Lattafa with standard Lattafa prices and exceptional Lattafa quality. Again, the Kingdom. All right, so what I really want to hear from you guys, what are your top picks? Designer, niche, clones. If there's clones you want to recommend to me, drop a link down below, and if I'm interested, I will pick it up. I love hearing from you guys. I'd love to hear your thoughts on 2024's best releases. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that. Please give the video a like. I'll see you on the next one. I'm Justin. This is Sillage Scents.